Ever feel like you're stuck in a loop with your horse's health? You bring in the best care, the best therapists, but some problems just keep coming back? Well, today, we're going to unpack a whole new way of thinking that might just be the key to breaking that cycle.
Right? It's the question that drives so many of us nuts. You get the vet out, you follow the advice, things seem to get better for a little while, and then, boom, it's back. We're going to dig into exactly why that happens and how a simple change in perspective can make all the difference.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about the way we usually handle this stuff, what we can call spot fixing. Now, it seems totally logical on the surface, but as you're about to see, it's often missing the most important parts of the puzzle.
You know this cycle, right? We find a tight muscle, a sore spot on the back, a joint that's a little sticky, and we pour all our energy into treating that one spot. And hey, it might even feel better for a bit. But that's the trap. Because we've only treated the symptom, the real cause is just lurking in the background, waiting to fire that problem right back up again.
And this right here, this really lays it all out. On the left, you've got that localized view. It sees the tight muscle and says, that's the problem. But the system's view on the right sees that same tight muscle and asks a much, much smarter question. Why? Why is that muscle tight in the first place? What's it reacting to?
So here's the deal with that spot-fixing model. It has some really big limitations. It's always chasing symptoms instead of finding the root cause. It sees compensation as a failure when it's actually a huge clue. And maybe most importantly, it pretty much ignores massive external factors, like how the rider sits or how the saddle fits. It's always playing catch-up, always reacting instead of getting ahead of the problem. So how do we break out of that loop? How do we actually get ahead of these issues? Well, we have to start thinking like a system. This is the big shift, removing from just chasing pain to understanding the whole horse. See, your horse isn't a car where you can just swap out a faulty part. It's a living, breathing, adaptive system. What that means is its body is constantly adjusting. It's responding to every single thing it experiences. The ground it walks on, the exercises you do, the way you sit, the gear you use, everything.
And that adaptation process is pretty straightforward when you break it down. First, some kind of load is applied. That could be your weight or the impact from a jump, anything really. Second, the horse's entire body responds, usually by changing its movement patterns just a little bit. And third, if that load keeps happening, the actual tissues, the muscles, the fascia, they start to physically change to handle that new pattern.
Now, once you really get that process, it completely reframes two of the most misunderstood ideas in equine health: compensation and pain. Turns out, they're not the bad guys we've made them out to be.
Okay, this quote is everything. Let it sink in for a second. Compensation is an adaptive response to constraint. This means compensation is not a flaw. It's not a mistake the horse's body is making.
It's actually the horse's body being incredibly smart. Think about it. When one part of the system is getting overloaded and can't handle the stress, the body cleverly shifts that workload to other areas so it can keep on moving. If you just go in and shut down that compensation without fixing the original overload, you can actually make the whole system less stable.
And pain? Pain is not the problem. It's the alarm bell. It's a signal, an output from the system that's basically screaming, hey, I'm out of clever ways to adapt. I'm overwhelmed here. The spot that hurts is just where the alarm is going off. It's not necessarily where the fire started.
And that means we absolutely have to zoom out. We've got to look at all the different pieces that are feeding into the system because, you guess it, they're all connected. Just look at this. The horse is right there in the middle, but it's not in a vacuum, is it? You've got the rider's influence, the saddle's interaction, the training load, even environmental stuff. These aren't separate problems to solve one by one. They're all constant inputs that are shaping how that horse's body adapts or fails to adapt. Let's make this real. A rider who's a little crooked or tired, that creates an uneven, unstable load for the horse's back to deal with. A saddle that bridges or rocks, that creates intense pressure points that force muscles to brace and tighten. A training program that's just the same thing over and over with no rest, that leads to fatigue, which means the system can't cope anymore. Each one of these things forces the horse to compensate.
So, okay, what do we do with all this information? Where does this leave us? Well, it points us toward a much smarter, more integrated, and honestly, more effective future for how we take care of our horses.
And here's the absolute key. No single person can solve this puzzle alone. It takes an integrated team. The therapist, the saddle fitter, the trainer, and the rider. You all have to be on the same page, speaking the same language, and looking at the very same system.
And this gives everyone on that team a new job description, really. For therapists, it's about looking for the why behind the sore spot. For saddle fitters, it's not just about how the saddle fits on a static horse, but how it impacts the horse in motion. For trainers, it's about making recovery just as important as the work itself. And for us, as riders, it's about owning the fact that we are a huge variable every single time we get in the saddle.
At the end of the day, what we're talking about is a huge shift in mindset. We want to move from just reacting to pain after it shows up to being able to predict where things might go wrong and step in before it becomes a real problem. That's the goal, predictive care.
So I'll leave you with this one question to really think about for your horse and for your team. Are you just treating the symptom, or are you truly taking care of the entire system? Because honestly, the answer to that question could change absolutely everything.